Money's moving to me. I'm a millionaire. Money better cases. I ain't gotta chase it.
Hey, 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 what's going on, beautiful people? Happy Thursday to you all. I hope that you've had an amazing day thus far. If not, it's about to get that much better. So if you're watching me live, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from. Rep your city, rep your country. Let me know where in the virtual building you are watching me from on tonight, this morning, this evening, depending on where you are in the world. And listen, I'm just y'all. It's a definition for me, darling. It's a definition for me. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling myself. Listen, you should too. I'm just saying, hard work pays off, baby. But no, seriously, go ahead. Let me know where you're watching from. Rep your city, rep your country. Let me know where the virtual building you're watching from tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started with my intro. I am not going to be for you long because I actually have a stretch meditation workout coming up in a few minutes. So I wanted to come on here really quickly to ask you all the questions, single wives. Where y'all at tonight? So let me start with my intro. My name is Sharita Leon. I went from being a homeless, disabled single mom to a two-time #1 best-selling author with books that were on the bestsellers list for over 2 years straight. I'm also a life, relationship, and business coach, an internet marketing strategist, entrepreneur, international speaker, and the protege of legendary Les Brown, a forex trader and investor, and I empower my tribe to live their God-given purpose while creating wealth and have healthy relationships. I'm also a believer, and my faith is exuded in all that I do. So welcome. All right, y'all. As you see in the title of this video, I am posing a couple of questions to you single wives out there. Do you really want an alpha male? Do you really want a king? Now, this is the thing. A lot of us love the ideas of certain things, right? But it's not until we actually get involved or experience certain things that makes us question if we really want what we say we want, right? Now, let me preface this by saying this. A lot of what I'm going to share with you tonight are experiences that not only I have had, but a lot of my coaching clients and those that I know have experienced as well. Now, yesterday I was on Clubhouse and I was in a particular room, and the room was talking about alpha males and betas. And the question was posed, do you want an alpha male, but do you need, no, it said, you want an alpha male, but you need a beta, something to that effect, right? And so I went in the room and I was listening, and they had all these alpha males in there and discussing, how they see their marriages, their roles, and things of that sort. And the funny thing to me is this: I have always been one to boldly proclaim that I want and need an alpha male. My best friend used to make fun of me all the time and would say, you talk all this talk about an alpha male, but do you really want one? Do you really know what that looks like? And I'm like, well, of course, duh. I am clearly an alpha female. And so anything passive or anything where I feel like I must be the initiator and take the lead of our entire relationship certainly would not work for me, right? Clearly. But now this is the thing. For some, there is a thin line. Sometimes we think alpha, and you might think that loud, boisterous person, that man that comes in the room and is boom, boom, boom. This is what I said. Sometimes we think that, but sometimes it's not that at all. Sometimes it's the man that his silence speaks more than his actual words, right? So for a woman who is like myself, who has been on their own single for some time, right? Especially if you are, career driven, whether you are someone who has, high leadership positions in your career path, or if you're an entrepreneur and you've been doing things on your own for a long time, allowing the space for a man of any sort to come in, especially an alpha male, to now lead and take charge can be something very challenging, right? So I'm in this room on Clubhouse yesterday and I'm listening to the conversations, and it's so amazing how a lot of misconceptions, both from the male perspective and the female perspective, were shared. Because there was one woman that was speaking and she was saying how, yes, she wants an alpha male and how they're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but a lot of them need to learn how to be husbands and how to be men and all this kind of stuff. And as I was listening to her, based off of what I was hearing, both from the words that she was saying and in addition to the tone in which she was using, I clearly understood that sis most likely ain't ready for no alpha male. And I was like, hey, Miss Becky. I could tell by her tone and the words that she spoke that there will be a lot of clashing. And one of the main things that was discussed on in that clubhouse room, was the fact that our upbringings have such a way of helping us, or the lack thereof, of how we act in our current relationships with people. And sometimes we do things as a necessity. And that necessity now becomes our norm because we've had to be in necessity mode for so long. So if you look at the single motherhood, if you look at how women have been doing things because they had to for so long that it became naturally their way of doing it, it's hard now for a transition to take place for a man to come in and take charge. And sometimes it's not even conscious. We don't realize that we're doing the most. If you're accustomed to opening your own doors, if you're accustomed to going into the grocery store, having to pay for the groceries, bring the bags home, put the food away, and then have to cook it yourself, you're not thinking that, okay, let him take my bags. You're like, oh, I got it. For a lot of women, that used to be me. Not anymore. So I want you to write, she's delivered. Okay. That used to be me, until I had an experience where I realized, no, I'm not carrying the bags. And no, I'm not opening the door. And I'll sit there and I'll wait. Because I know now to allow the man to take charge and lead in that regard. Now, let me say this, honey. Honey, I had an experience with the alpha. If alphaist was a word, that would be him. He was the alphaist of all alphas. And it was like, whoa, what did I sign up for? What did I get myself into, honey? Because it was a totally different ball game. Naturally, alphas come and they are the leaders, they take charge, they're the protectors, they're the providers, they're the priests. They are, I make the shots. I'ma see if I can get to you and let you know what we're doing, but this is what's gonna happen. And you eventually may find out for the most part. Okay. And so with that, having to align, some people don't like the word submit, but submit is part of that, right? Having to align and or submit to that way of doing things can seem like, oh my gosh, I'm in bondage. I remember wanting to do something and I waited to bring the idea to that person. I waited to see what they were going to think, to get their, blessings on it. But the whole time I was waiting, I was like, why the heck do I have to wait? I'm like, this is annoying. I'm accustomed for so long. Listen, y'all, I've been on my own since I was 21. Okay. I've been on my own since I was 21. So you could imagine, as an adult woman over 30, having to ask or bring something to another man's attention. It's like, what? And I'm an entrepreneur. So it's not like I have a boss that I have to, actually get permission from. I'm used to doing things by myself, when I want it, how I want it. And now I have to ask someone if they agree or what they think. I thought I was cool with that until I realized there are levels to this. There are levels to this, honey, because depending on the type of man that you want and how dominant he is in being that leader, that could be a challenge. Which brings me into the next question of this video. Do you really want a king? Now, we sit here and we'll call the man a king all day. It sounds really good. Oh, I'm waiting for my king. Oh my gosh, I'm his queen. I'm waiting for my king. We'll say all of that, right? It sounds really good. But now let's look at what a true kingdom looks like. In a true kingdom, where the king is the head and leads the entire kingdom, the wife only really has the say so when he summons her for a response or assigns her to something. The king literally rules that whole sector. Okay. So when we say we want a king, can we really align to moving like that? Because let's go back and look at scripture. When we look at the story of Esther, and she was getting ready to go and try to save her people, she literally could have killed herself by going straight up to the king without being summoned by the king. That's how serious it was. Like the king had to send for you, right? Now I know you're like, okay, Sharita, you're taking things totally extreme. This is not that day and age and all of that. I get that. But I want you all to realize the level in mentality of what you say you want and how some men think. There are men who operate from that level of really operating as a king. Old school, kingdom type king, right? So, with that personality, you, especially if you are an alpha woman, you have to know how to work around that. And it's certainly not you being alpha to another alpha thinking that's going to work. That clashes, which is why if you look at most alpha males, their wives or their girlfriends are typically the most feminine, soft spoken type of women. That does not mean they're weak. That's a misconception that a lot of us have. And I used to be one of those people. But the reason why the alpha wants the woman who is not going to be at him like that, he doesn't want to be with another man. He wants to be with someone who honors his kingship and can follow his leadership. And so, because that's what he wants, what he's drawn to feminine energy. He's drawn to the more submissive woman because it allows him to lead more efficiently without the stress and worry. Does that mean that she does not have a say? Does that mean that she can't be influential? Absolutely not. In fact, when you are wise enough to use your femininity as your tool, she's more influential than anybody in that house. But if you're not accustomed to that way of thinking, you'll miss it. And so now you have our modern age where we have so many successful women. You have so many women who are leading in many areas of life. You hear this conversation of, well, I don't really need a man, right? So you don't need a man. You let him know he's not needed. One thing a man must have is he must feel needed. He must feel needed. This is where the protection comes in. This is where the provision comes in. He has to feel needed some way, somehow. So if you come and you've already done everything for yourself, you leave no room for someone else to come and do anything, he's not going to find his place there with you. Right? And so we have gotten this whole independent woman, stigma to where we block off a lot of our blessings because we're so busy trying to be like that man. And again, I know some of us had to be that. I was her and still trying to take some things off, okay? But you have to really ask yourself, what do I really want? What type of leadership do I want? And understanding that in a relationship, that if you are with someone who is an alpha, that is their main thing is leadership. Now you're probably thinking, well, we're leading together. Yes and no. In different components, right? In different areas. But if you're someone that feels like I have to make a decision for everything, and I need to know when everything is being done before it's done, there's a great chance that an alpha male is not for you. Because alpha men are going to make decisions and then tell you about it afterwards. Honey, let me tell you something. That was one of the biggest things that used to, oh my gosh, annoy me. I have always been attracted, obviously, to alpha males. And I remember there was one man in my life, and he would make decisions and would tell me afterwards, And I'd be like, um, so you just not gonna you're gonna just tell me after the fact? Like, is that what we're doing? And it was like, oh, I just had to go make a decision. See, that was the king in him. The king in him was, you get it done. I don't have to ask anyone. Again, not necessarily saying that your thoughts or your concern is not important, but certain things and certain timing needed for him to move. It didn't have time to come back to you and ask you what you think about this. And that sometimes, if you don't know the person you're with, if you're not trustworthy, that could feel a certain kind of way and throw you off. But you have to be able to trust in the leadership of the person that you are in a relationship with. If you can't trust their leadership, you'll most likely never be able to submit to them, and you'll most likely never actually follow their lead. And this is why it's imperative that they have to show themselves to be worthy of submitting to. You don't just submit to anybody because I'm a man. You listen to me. Oh, heck no, that's foolishness. Especially if you are a woman who has everything already going for herself, is already established. If my submission is a gift, and because my submission is a gift, you don't give a gift to someone who does not know the worthiness of the gift or proves themselves to be responsible for the gift. So, in you seeking that person out and trusting their leadership, while you may not understand and while you may be upset at the moment, you know eventually this has to work out for all of us because he would not do something that would harm me. But if you don't know that, it's going to cause trouble. And so here we are as women who are doing it up. And now we have to make space for someone to come in and actually lead. What does that transition look like? Are we even cognitive of the things that we do? So yesterday, was it yesterday or today? I think it was yesterday. No, it was today actually. I was working out with my trainer and I had to stretch and I lost my balance a little bit and I almost was like about to fall. So he stretched his hand out to get me so that I wouldn't fall. But in my mind, I was like, no, I got to make sure I get my balance together because I want to make sure that I get myself, in alignment to where I can start balancing better and, just get stronger overall. So he said, there goes that strong Black independent woman thing again. I'm like, what are you talking about? That was not it. I literally just wanted to make sure that I could get my balance together. But in actuality, that could be very well a different perspective. That no, I could do it. I needed to prove that I could do it. I wanted to be stronger instead of just taking his hand so that I wouldn't fall. Right? But we do that a lot in relationships or allow someone to come in. Oh, I got the bag, I got it. Why can't you just let him carry the bag? Why do you need to carry the bag? We know you can carry the bag. But see, this is the unlearning and the relearning we have to do from going from being away in a relationship on your own to now having someone else that's so dominating and in their right place in leadership to lead you. So I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I was questioning. Oh my gosh, I said, Lord, do I really am I really signing up for this? Is this, can I really do this? It was, and I'm telling you, I'm pretty good. Like I've had, strong men in my life. I've had alpha males in my life. I've dated them. I was gonna get married to one, So I was like, I'm pretty good with that submission piece. But honey, it was a whole different level. It was a whole different level of submission that I was like, Lord, I need you to talk to me because this, I don't know. Right. But it showed me areas in myself that had, it had those walls that we sometimes think are broken, but actually still there, those walls. And so I had to now evaluate myself, not just looking at them and how they wanted to get things done and what they thought. Now, sometimes obviously they're wrong, right? But it was deeper than that. It was for me to realize the things that I still need to work on and be honest with. And so tonight I pose this question to you. Do you really want an alpha male? Do you really want a king? Because dealing with those type of men looks totally different than what the average man or what a beta would be like, right? And so as strong women, our strength is not always in just having to have the last say. It's not in how we necessarily have to speak. It's not in us doing everything. It's not in us trying to fix it all. That is not where our strength can very well show up in our silence. Our strength can show up in submitting to someone where you know he's driving the wrong way, but he thinks he knows where he's going. Your strength isn't letting him go and find out for himself. So redefining our strength, redefining being the strong Black woman, what that looks like, and why we don't always have to be quote unquote strong, why we can sometimes lean into our vulnerability, lean into our femininity, and not allowing society or our past experiences to keep us in this box when in all actuality we were created differently for a reason. Still equal, we just work in opposite or work in different areas depending on your relationship because every relationship is different. But don't make the mistake of trying to get into something and say, oh no, well, he was too controlling, or he was this, or he was that, and he was. It might have been the fact that you weren't ready to let go yet. It might have been the fact that you were not ready to let go yet. You wanted the relationship, you liked the idea. Then he comes to be the prince in shining armor, and it's like, ooh, pump the brakes. I don't know yet. You doing too much. I feel like my freedom. Like that's a real thing. And so as I transition from being, a woman who has been doing this thing on my own solo for a long time to now like, whew, okay. So I gotta follow, follow a king and we still rule together, but it may very well look differently than what you might have created in your mind as a single person. I'm just saying, especially if you are someone, when you are with a king who has influence, whether that's a pastor, that's a politician, a celebrity, a successful businessman, whatever it is, when you are with someone who is of influence and charismatic, you have to deal with a whole lot that the average person does not have to deal with, which is why for so long, all the things that I've done relationship wise has always been to, even the Single Wives Academy, has always been to the woman called to be the wife of an affluent man, a man of power, of influence. That's a totally different type of person that's dealing with the everyday man. And so you have to ask yourself again, am I lacking the idea? Do I want the idea of this relationship? Or am I actually called to this type of person? Because when you're called to that type of person, you have a grace for it. It may get on your nerves, but you have a grace to know how to deal with it and how to use your wisdom and your grace and your ability to influence and encourage and inspire as your gift for both you, your spouse, and that entire family, rather than seeing it as a competition or a fight or always this tooth and nail, but knowing when to release. And that's the other thing. As strong women or as independent women or whatever you want to call yourself, as women who have had to do what they had to do on their own, I don't know about y'all, but I want to be able to finally fall back. I don't want to have to lead all of the time. I've done that almost my entire life. And so now it's being able to keep that desire in alignment with when the king shows up and wants to take control. And I could just say, okay, that's that transition from what I desire to what I'm actually prepared for, right? So I hope that this has been of help to some of you to make you think and really look at where you are in your life right now and how you can start practicing that transition, how you can start practicing allowing other people to receive, or how you can receive from others to allow someone to actually lead you, what that looks like, and being able to start practicing that now. So that way, when it's time for you to transition to being that wife, to that king or that alpha, you're able to do so with more grace than prior. All right. So listen, I thank you all for watching. Until next time, only believe until the end and go get your life. Be blessed.
I'm a millionaire, money better cases. I ain't gotta chase it. I'm a millionaire.
Get your money. Get your money.